Her name is Maria. She was born many weeks premature in a small village in Eastern Europe. And among many medical problems due to her premature birth, Maria was blind in both eyes. She could not see. For the first 15 years of her life, she lived in complete darkness. Then, at the age of 15, Maria came to the United States, and a talented surgeon determined that one of her eyes might possibly regain some sight if Maria could receive a cornea transplant. A donor was eventually located, and the surgery was performed. At the age of 15, remember, she had never seen light, or anything for that matter. But now, after her surgery, the doctor sat her down in front of a mirror and began to remove the bandages from her face. Someone in the room had the smarts to take out the smartphone and recorded her reaction. And thanks to that video on YouTube, we are privileged to see the moment when, for the first time, Maria reacts to what we all take for granted: light. For the first time, she experienced light. Her eyes were still closed at this point, but then slowly she opens the eye that just had the surgery, and her face began to be filled with astonishment because she has never seen anything, and now she can see. And what she's looking at is herself in the mirror, and she squeals with delight. "I am so pretty." Sadly, we cannot see the miracle moment in today's gospel, but we can imagine it. Today's gospel tells us about a man born blind. Like 15-year-old Maria, this man had never seen anything. He had lived in complete darkness. He sat by the road. He begged for his daily bread. And when people saw him, this man who had been born blind, they asked questions that you and I often ask. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do people suffer or have physical ailments like this? And as they searched the Old Testament, they found at least one answer. There are parts of the Old Testament that says that if someone is suffering physically, if they are sick in any way, it is a punishment from God due to sin. In other words, if they are sick, they deserve it because they are sinners. This man was blind from birth, and so people concluded that either he was a sinner or his parents were sinners. And so the whole family lived under the darkness of shame. But Jesus, as he's walking by, notices this man's suffering. Jesus spits on the ground and he smears clay on this man's eyes, perhaps recalling how God created man and woman out of clay back in the book of Genesis. Because what Jesus is doing for this man is creating new life for him. He's giving this man and his family a new beginning, a new Genesis. So Jesus smears clay on his face, and then he says to this man, "Go and wash in Siloam," and this man departs. Now, this is when I wish someone during the time of Jesus had a smartphone. What happened in that pool in Siloam? Was there lightning in the sky? Was there music in heaven? Or was this a quiet miracle? We don't know. And what was the look on this man's face when for the first time in his life he could see? How did he respond? when he saw the first glint of sunlight off the ripple of water in the pool. How strange must the world have looked when he was seeing it for the first time. Imagine being 20 or 30 or 40 years old and you're seeing everything in the world for the first time. You know what it's called, but you don't know what it looks like. You know what it feels like, but you don't know what it looks like. Imagine how strange it must be, or to see a tree for the first time, or a cloud for the first time, or to see the basket that we use for the second collection for the very first time. Imagine what it's like to see your mother's face for the first time, because up to this point, you have only recognized her by the sound of her voice and the smell of her skin. Imagine walking back from that pool in Siloam, and for the first time, you see a horse or a snake or a flower. How would you feel in that experience? And then remember this little detail. This man had been healed by Jesus, but up to this point, he has never seen Jesus. He spoke to Jesus, then Jesus rubbed clay on his face, and then Jesus sent him away. Go and wash in that pool in Siloam. He was healed over there in the pool in Siloam. Jesus was gone already. By the time this man got back to town, Jesus was nowhere to be seen. In other words, this man was healed by a God he couldn't see, just like you and I are healed by a God we cannot see. When 15-year-old Maria looked at herself in the mirror for the very first time, she squealed, "I am so pretty." The man in the gospel sees the world for the first time. He joyfully tells people how he has been healed. And what does everyone tell him in response? They essentially say to him, "You are ugly." Now, you won't find those words in today's gospel. I made it up. But isn't that the message that they are sending him by their actions? Remember, this man has just been healed, and almost immediately they drag him before a religious tribunal, and they hurl hate-filled questions at him. Who is this man who just healed you? Where is he now? Why did he heal you on the Sabbath? This man who healed you is a sinner. And by the way, so are you. Finally, they say to the newly healed man, "Get out. You can't be part of us." In other words, they are saying to him, "You are ugly." Sadly, over the centuries, churches have been very good at telling people to get out, that they can't belong, that they are ugly. But Jesus, the light of the world, goes and finds this man whom the religious leaders discarded. Jesus, the light of the world, helps this man see everything clearly, not just on a physical level, but in every way. Jesus helps him see that he is deeply loved by God. Jesus helped him see that God does not want him to live with guilt and shame. Jesus helped this man see that his parents are beloved by God. Jesus helped this man see that the darkness of his past life will not control his present or his future. Jesus helped this man see that no darkness is stronger than Jesus' light. Jesus helped this man see that even when everyone else is casting him aside, telling him that he doesn't belong, God says to him, "You are deeply loved. You are a beautiful child of God." That's what Jesus helps this man see. And that's what Jesus helped each one of us to see. Friends, the world in which we live has a lot of darkness. We get sick. We get depressed. We get angry. We get scared. Our marriages fall apart. Racism is still very real. Then Jesus comes along and he declares to us, "Go and wash. Go and wash in the waters of baptism. Jump around in the pool of my love. Splash around in the waves of my mercy. And then you will see. You will see yourself as God sees you. You will see your neighbors as God sees them. You will see the world as God sees the world. You will see your future so full of hope as God sees it." Finally, my friends, open your eyes at Mass this morning. Look at the bread and wine that will soon be placed upon the altar. The bread and wine, see them as God sees them. Not just food and drink, but the real presence of Jesus Christ. The Christ who washes away the darkness, who bathes us in his light.